You're with RT. Now, Afghan President Hamid Karzai begins a two-day visit to India to sign strategic agreements, which could potentially raise tensions with neighboring Pakistan. It follows a statement by Karzai accusing Islamabad of playing a, quote, double-sided game in the fight against terrorism. Well, for more, let's talk to Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, a professor and vice dean at the Jindal School of International Affairs. Thank you for joining us today. So Karzai and his NATO allies have been unable to stop the Taliban over the last 10 years. What kind of help do you think India can offer, given the current circumstances?
India has been largely playing a developmental role. It's been providing all kinds of assistance towards infrastructure growth and telecommunications and roads and railways and so on, and health. So it's been playing, you could call, low-profile role, but in terms of total aid that's been dished out, it's one of the largest bilateral donors to Afghanistan. So India has been doing that for a long time, but whether it has actually managed to create any dent in the threat posed by the Taliban is not at all clear. In fact, India has chosen projects that are meant to strengthen regional alliances which are formed in such a way that they counter the Taliban's menace.
I'm sorry, but if I may just jump in for a moment. I do apologize for interrupting you, but you say that a lot of the possible or potential help from India will be based on helping to develop infrastructure in Afghanistan. But if it's as simple as that, then why are we getting reports that Islamabad and Pakistan basically object to India getting involved? They say that this is a threat by India, that it basically causes regional instability. But if it's just infrastructure, why the concern?
Yeah, it's because this is a carry forward of the India-Pakistan dispute into another neighboring country. Now that Afghanistan is part of SAARC, which is the South Asian Regional Organization, Pakistan believes that Indian encroachment and influence will deny it what its military planners have always considered to be strategic depth in Afghanistan. And therefore, they object to the infrastructural interventions that India is making. But now I think with Karzai's visit, the game is going to change somewhat, and India is forced by the regional circumstances to actually think about playing a more proactive security role in Afghanistan. And the talk is that the partnership agreement that President will sign while he's on this two-day trip will eventually lead to India playing a more proactive role in training the Afghan security forces. And I think the Indians realize that over time, what has happened is that if they keep pressing the pedal of soft aid, it will be insufficient. But at the same time, there's a lot of resistance in India to a full-fledged military intervention, which has been touted in some quarters, for various reasons. For one being, it could lead to unpopular resistance against what could be seen as alien forces. And secondly, India doesn't have the stomach for a kind of a full-fledged deployment of ground forces.
Okay,
but instead what we're going to see is, I think, a deepening.
So there's a fair amount of resistance, as you say, even though there are small bouts of people in the Indian Authority who are saying, you know, it could be a full-scale intervention there, India going into Afghanistan, although, as you say, it seems very, very unlikely. So India helped to rebuild and to build infrastructure in Afghanistan. That could be some of the potential role. Also, as you were mentioning a moment ago, that India could help to train Afghan security forces. But correct me if I'm wrong, the American troops are staying until 2014. They have been and will continue to train Afghani troops. Isn't that America's job and not India's?
You know, India, Iran, even Russia, all these neighboring countries that are affected by the blowout of Afghanistan's Islamic fundamentalism need to take greater responsibility, because they have been free riding in many ways on the US's contributions. And as we know, the domestic situation in the United States is such that the drawdown could be sooner rather than later. If we may not even have to wait until 2014 if the presidential fortunes of Obama continue going downhill. So bringing the troops back home could become a very urgent situation. So in that case, there's a likelihood of a power vacuum. And then we will have to, all the regional actors have to come together. In fact, I've been arguing that why do we need to have international conferences on the future of Afghanistan in Rome or in London? Why not have it in Moscow or in Tehran or in New Delhi, where all the parties come together? We've had these big jamborees of 70, 80 countries that are involved in many ways, gathering in Western capitals, but it has not yielded very much in terms of changing the security realities on the ground. And therefore,
now, when
India,
Iran
and Russia need to come in.
Stability. I apologize for interrupting you again. Please do forgive me. You have written, as you were just saying there as well, that you are proposing a Moscow, Tehran, New Delhi axis that can help to bring regional security there. You mentioned Tehran in this axis. Now, with America having been in Afghanistan, with America saying we're going to stay beyond 2014, how do you see that working? Because Tehran and Washington aren't exactly the best of friends.
That's right. But you know, pragmatic realities dictate that they have to come together on this issue. If you look at books, for example, by Trita Parsi called Treacherous Alliance, he's actually looked at periods of Iran-United States relations even after the Islamic Revolution of 1979, where they have cooperated on pragmatic issues. And the same has to happen if they want to avert a geopolitical disaster, which is by the Pakistani intelligence services and by the Taliban, who are Sunni fundamentalists, and which is to the detriment of Iran's own security. I think, you know, Afghanistan has been called the graveyard of empires. It can also become a great meeting place for very unlikely friends. Iran and the United States have shown this pragmatic streak in the past, and it is possible to overcome the ideological divides. The other reason why Iran and the United States can use Afghanistan as a meeting ground is because Israel is not directly involved in the Afghan conflict. Unlike Iran's engagements on the other side, to its western side in the Middle East, in Central and South Asia, Israel is not really a big factor. Therefore, I think the ideological animus against Iran can be watered down in Washington to create some kind of a
So when it comes to tension between Tehran and Washington, D.C., for example, you say that when it comes to pragmatic partnerships, the political sidestepping and political propaganda stuff can actually be put to the side, and a pragmatic relationship can work. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Dr. Sreeram Chaulia would love to talk to you further. You're Professor and Vice Dean of the Jindal School of International Affairs. Many thanks indeed.